Women are well represented here in Rwanda. There is a high rate of female employment here. There is, in some industries, women make up more of the civil servants, such as in the health industry. And of course, in 2013, Rwanda broke a record with 64% of the seats in parliament being seated by women. So I just wanted to take stock of how it is to be a female leader here in Rwanda and how it is to lead other women. I have asked some women to join me on the panel today to discuss that. First up, we have Sarah Doukoure. She is CEO of Engen Rwanda. And we also have Denise Umunyana, who is the co-founder of Right Seat, which provides HR solutions. Thank you guys so much for joining me today.
Pleasure, Makeda.
So I wanted to touch on quite a few different topics today, just talking about basically how it is to be a woman leader, of course, in this environment, but also how it is to lead other women, because I think it's one of the things that we don't talk about quite as much. But let's jump in first just on how it is to be in a leadership position. So, you know, we know that there are a lot of women working in Rwanda. It's not that they're not there, but in terms of being a leader, are you still in the minority or even sometimes the only woman in a boardroom or in these high-level meetings? How is that now? Maybe we can start off with you, Sarah.
All right, thanks, Makeda. That's actually a very good question because when we look at the women in the workplace in general, we can see that the women are there and there's quite a majority of women. But when you go up high on the scale, you actually realize that there are not so many women that makes it, especially in the private sector. There are not so many women that makes it to the top level. And in our industry, for example, in the petroleum industry, we realized that of 30 CEOs in the petroleum industry in our association, we are only a handful of women. Yeah, so the statistics are actually quite bad in the private sector.
Right. Denise, do you find the same?
Yes, actually, touching on what Sarah just said, looking at, so I've worked in the bank and telecommunications, so those are the few statistics that I know. When you look at the number of licensed banks we have here, we have about 16, and out of 16 banks, we only have 5 CEOs, women CEOs. You look at the insurances, out of 14, we only have 3 women, 3 CEO women. The government of Rwanda is doing well. In the cabinet, it's 50-50, which is good. But definitely, I think us being here, Sarah, the CEO of Engen, and myself as a founder, we do not represent, we represent a minority, a small percentage of women who have also been given head starts. I'd really like to say, at least for myself, that I've been given a head start. From the time I was born, I had parents who sacrificed for me to go to school. They did all they could so that I could study. So that is a head start, and it's not so many people who get that chance. So as much as we're here representing women, let us remember that we represent a very small percentage of those women in the seats. And yes, definitely, as much as good we're doing here in Rwanda, there's a lot to be done. Like Sarah mentioned, like for example, in my previous job, I was the only woman. We were like an executive team of about 12 people, and I was the only woman in the boardroom. Wow. And the interesting part is that when you're the only woman, but also because I was in HR at the time, when everyone is talking about their areas of expertise, I, the HR person, I'm quiet because I'm not an expert in that area. But whenever it came to HR, everybody became an expert. So even when you're in the boardroom as a woman, you still face some challenges because men feel that they understand your field, and you cannot understand their field. So there's definitely still a lot to be done.
So keeping that in mind and knowing that you are women and how you are treated by men, how does that inform the way that you lead other women? Maybe we can start off with Sarah again.
Okay, so from my perspective, I think it's a bit different because I lead mainly men. In our company today, of being head office and field, amongst 150 people, I would say that women represents about 20%, which is a very, very low. Right. In our boardroom, when we meet as a team, as a management team, there's only 2 women, myself and the HR lady. Right. So you can imagine that the challenge has been to actually get women to really believe in themselves, believe that they can also rise up and get those positions. That has been my fight for some years now, and I'm continuing to do that. I say my fight because I just realized that some of them just don't feel that they have the right to sit there. They just feel that, no, it belongs to the men because the men can talk, they know everything, they know it all.
It's
we don't know.
psychological.
It's psychological, but I think it's also cultural. Right. So there's a lot to be done in that sense.
Right. And as someone who is involved in a company that provides HR solutions, do you find that you are sort of prioritizing getting more women out there or working with women to sort of break out of that feeling that, they have to sort of take a back seat?
Yes, definitely. So it's something we're definitely part of, but as a service provider, I also don't discriminate. So I'm supporting as many women, same as men as possible. But what I've seen is that when you're doing recruitment, especially when you're recruiting for like entry-level jobs, up to maybe mid-level jobs, you see a lot of women applying for positions. But when you go up, you're recruiting for executives, managing directors, and the CFOs, then you don't see the women, so you wonder where they are. And sometimes also as women, we tend to unknowingly, how can I say, not discriminate. I don't want to say discriminate, but sometimes, for example, there's a position that is out of town. And then immediately you're like, a woman with a mother will not travel. So somehow you're already biased before you even look for this woman. So most of the time what we're trying to do, you have to like give double energy when you're recruiting so that you avoid those unwanted biases. So we're definitely supporting as many women as possible, but as a service provider, I also feel that it's our responsibility as a woman. They can't feed us, You also have a part to play for you to grow and become the CEO or other higher positions.
Right, and I'm happy that you brought that up, because there was a tweet that got some attention recently by Patience Mutesi, and she was saying that she had gone for a job. There was another tweet that she was referring to, but she said it reminded her of a time when she was going out for a job and the potential employer asked her if she was married. She said yes, and if the employer asked her if she had children, she said no, but he said that was a bad thing because that meant that she would be taking time off shortly to maybe give birth. She was saying that she understood where he was coming from and she still got the job, but she would have understood if she didn't get the job. There were some mixed reactions to that, and I wanted to know what were your feelings on it, the both of you, because it is a reality that people at a certain age or whenever in their life, they're going to want to start a family, but certain things aren't a concern when you are hiring men than when you are hiring women. So I want to know, what are your perspectives on that? Since you brought it up, maybe we can start with Denise.
So first of all, I would actually say that in that perspective, I wouldn't have understood if she didn't get a job because she was expecting a baby. Sometimes you also women tend to be so considerate, but you end up eliminating yourself. So why should I lose a job because I'm pregnant? It's not my pregnancy that is going to work. I have a brain, I can do the job. So sometimes you also need to really not, how can I say, is it forgiving the employer? No. So I don't think it's right. Unfortunately, it happens. And as a woman, what I said again, you have to really put double energy in everything that you do. But I do not think, I would not have understood if she didn't get a job because she was pregnant, for example. So I think as women also, let us not have pity. I think pity for ourselves. No. Yeah.
Or bring ourselves down. I mean,
bring ourselves down. Yes.
And the instance that you're bringing up, it's someone who's pregnant. I think in her tweet, or sometimes a lot, what people are thinking is that even before, if you see a young couple that just got married, sometimes employers can assume they're going to be having a baby soon enough, and that means maternity leave, and that means, So as a CEO who is in the position to be hiring people and firing people and giving that last bit of approval, is that something that you consider?
I do consider it, and I'm going to take my own example. So my own experience. When I joined Engen 10 years ago, I was a young woman that just got married 6 months ago. 3 months after I joined, I was expecting, and of course, I wouldn't even know how to tell my boss that I was expecting. 3 months after I got a job, so I kind of delayed, and up to the point that I couldn't hide it anymore and that I had to tell. And the reaction was actually quite positive. Of course, it was a handful of men, and the company was quite a male-dominated one. But they understood very clearly. And I mean, I worked my way, and I pushed myself quite a bit through to be able to push up to the limit, and then I went and gave birth, came back. A year after I got pregnant again. So that has been double, and then they just looked at me and they say, okay, how many are you gonna have? But then it went on. So there is no, call it forbiddenness that you shouldn't, because you're a young woman, you shouldn't have kids before you rise through the ranks. Now, I think from a very early age, I understood that it is about choice. It is what you want in life, and you have to give it all to be able to get it. So on your question about hiring, that comes up quite a bit, because we have a number of, we do a number of recruitments. And during recruitment, we get a lot of young women. And they usually ask the questions about, are you going to have to travel? Are you going to go around? And the question is yes, because I mean, we are a company that works on field. So the question often comes up, and when it does, most of the women will shy away and they'll say, no, I'm not able to do because, you know, I have a baby, I have this. And my reaction is immediate, and I give them my own example. It's not because you have a baby that you can't manage it. You have to give it a chance. Just try it and you'll see what happens. You will be surprised that you can actually manage it.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you find that as an employer, you are more sympathetic to some of the things that perhaps a woman would go through? Sometimes we hear about in the office, you know, women being misunderstood for different reasons. And as two women, in fact, who have families, you know, you understand that hormones are in play, you understand that fatigue can be there, you understand that, you know, capability is there, but, you know, in the end of the day, your physical situation sometimes takes over. When you have an employee or maybe someone that you're recruiting for, is that something that you find that you're more sympathetic about, or do you find that it's hard to balance that because in the end of the day, you're running a business?
No, true. The job has to be done at the end of the day, and we have targets, we need to achieve them. We all assess on performance, so you need to play a part, but you also need to be sensitive about it. And I think us as women leaders, we have that capability to be able to balance the two and be compassionate with other women. We've gone through it, we know what it is. It's not easy to have a baby at home and come in the morning and do the kind of the double shift, because I mean, young babies don't sleep, we know that. So the mother will come in the morning, she's tired, she can't deliver to the expectation. And I do push my managers, mostly men, to be able to understand that as well. And men do understand those things. Right. They do understand it, but you have to raise up, you have to speak up.
Right.
You can't just keep quiet and sit at your desk and start, you know, snoozing a bit, and they will just feel that she's bored, she doesn't want to do it. Meanwhile, you have your own personal issues. So just raise them up.
Right, right. Denise?
I think really it's mostly most of the things you mentioned, but yes, actually now when I became self-employed, I tend to be more understanding, and also when I had babies, I'm more understanding because I did not know before. You know, when you're young, you just, you know, but now I do understand, and actually even when it's not even only women, even men, sometimes you just need a break. You see someone has been working so hard, like now what we do, someone has been working maybe on a project, I just look at you in your eye, I'm like, you know, take a day off. So I think I would really like to encourage employers to be more understanding, both men and women, and also the employees to not be fearful. Most of the time, the managers are there and they would really understand, but the people don't go to them because like, if I go there, I'll lose my job, this and that. So it's really a two-way thing. Employees should be comfortable and be honest, yes, and know that they have to definitely achieve their targets, but also be honest and tell their managers what they're going through.
Right. We touched on it earlier, sort of about women having a different mentality sometimes in the workplace, thinking perhaps that they don't deserve certain positions, and I'm sure being in a room with majority men can be sometimes intimidating. As women who have led men and women, do you find that you have two different styles with leading men differently from women, or do you find that you have any different techniques when working with them, or is it just the same for everyone across the board?
From my perspective, it's the same across the board. I tend to be even a bit more pushing with women, because I do find that they sometimes shy away from responsibilities. They'll be a bit more reserved in taking the lead. But for me, it's the same. Men and women, they treat it the same. It's all about skills. They need to deliver on what I'm expecting from them. And as long as they do so, there will be no discrimination either. But true that men tends to be a bit more, I would say, adventurous and confident, and they like to show off that they know. So they tend to always scale up versus the woman, even though they have the same skills and they both know how to do it. It's all about the confidence that you have to put in, and I would really encourage women out there to really think that they are capable of doing it. They should shine. They should not be shying away and think that, yes, I can do it, but I shouldn't show it off. If you know how to do it, show it off. That's gonna pay in the end.
Definitely, that's good. Recently, you said something on Facebook as well, that no one can dim the light that shines from within. So definitely you have to, when you know something, you don't have to shy away. You know it. So if you know, you know. When you know, you know. So anyway, coming back to the question you asked, I also tend to I don't have different styles for leading men and women, because I do believe that in the beginning of times, God didn't say, woman, you're supposed to be treated like this way, man. No. So really, I really tend to have the same leadership style, but now become more encouraging when it comes to women, especially those I feel that they're shying away from their light, you know. So I do lead the same way, and I tend to be more of a team leader. And yeah.
So let's talk about equal pay. You know, here in Rwanda, it's not 100% equal pay yet, but you know, we're moving towards it. And do you feel that you have to be an advocate for this, or do you say, you know, things are going to happen the way they have to go? I have a company to run here. What is your stance on this?
I don't believe things will happen if you don't push for them. That has been one of my fights as well, because up to now, we still realize that women get lesser paid than a man for the same job. And when you recruit, it's actually not even so much on the company itself, but more of the expectations. You ask, when you do recruitment, you ask women, like, what is your expectation? They will usually tend to give the actual pay that they get now. Oh, this is my expectation. The men will double it. And they say, no, I'm expecting that, but how much are you earning? I'm earning this. So why do you think you should be getting more? Because I'm worth it, you know? And the woman should be doing the same. Don't settle for less. You need to push. If you ask, well, you have a chance to get. If you don't ask, you won't.
I really think there should be an equal pay, because we should not confuse jobs and people. You know, the pay is attached to a job. You know, so before Denise or JC comes in a job, it's a job. So you're paying for a job, not the person who is in the job. So definitely, I do not. I'm an advocate for equal pay, because you should differentiate the jobs and the people. But like Sarah said, sometimes women, we tend to undersell ourselves, you know. So when they ask you, so how much have you been earning, you can't double your expectation. Most of them will say, oh, if I say 100%, it's a lot. But men, they can even do, I was doing an interview one day, and this person did, the man asked 16 times. I'm like, excuse me, so are you talking about, are you talking about this position here, or is it something global that I'm not? 16 times. He was not even shy. I was the one shocked. So really, let us not undersell ourselves as women. They should be equal pay, because it's the job that we're paying for, not the person in it.
Right. We've heard sort of whispers in some companies that there is a requirement for certain positions for men to be married before they can get certain promotions. Thank you very much. Or certain different positions. Have you guys heard about anything like that? And have you been faced with it as someone who does HR solutions, or as someone who hires?
That men should be married. to get, well, in my field, it's better that you're not married with no commitment if you want to rise up. No, I would tend to say that I tend to look at men that are married in a more positive way. The only reason is that we are in a sector that is quite, let's say, we do get quite a lot of fraud and a lot of tricks, and we think that a man that is married will be more considerate and will take it more seriously and will try not to cheat here and there because he has a family to care for. But other than that, I mean, not really. Not in our field.
Same as really when we are recruiting, for most of the clients that we recruit for, they don't tell us we need a married person or not. But yes, you're right, there are rumors that go out here like, oh, for you to get this job, you have to be married. I think it's, again, those unnecessary biases that human beings create. Maybe some, again, I can't speak for all employers, maybe some companies are doing it, but honestly speaking, most of the time, at least for the recruitments that I've been doing, unless they do it quietly, but it's mainly the job requirements, not the marital status or the person in it, yes.
Have you ever had a client specify that they want a man for this job or a woman for this job?
No.
Or given you a feeling that they did?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, not now, but yeah, when I was working, yes, when we were going to recruit, when I was the HR manager in companies, some managers would tell you, I would prefer a woman or a man, and please, but let's not make it public. Yeah, some people will do that, definitely.
What would be the justification?
So that it's just what Sarah just said, that sometimes, like, I need a man because this person has to leave our country, for example, or I need a married man because I do believe that they'll be more stable, or they will not do certain tricks here and there. So those will be the some of the answers.
Well, from my side, I do get that quite often. So, especially, I mean, my managers tend to somehow prefer to hire men, especially for field work, because they do believe that men will be more adaptable to the different situations, and they will be more inclined to work overtime and the like. So that do gets quite in the way when you try to promote women in certain positions. So unfortunately, because of that, women tend to get, customer service roles or HR roles because they are more sedentary than the field work. That has changed with the years. We do find that there is an improvement on this, and I mean, we have to be deliberate about it as well when we do the recruitments, and we have to open the door so that women can also have a chance to be involved in the field work. And most of them do get to it, and they do quite a good job. We do have women pump attendants that will go and that will do a perfect job on the field. So it's not a reserve right for men or women. It has to be open, and women have to also take the job.
Realistically, when you are, because you mentioned earlier, the both of you, that you're still in the minority in boardrooms and in high-level meetings. Do you ever feel that there are expectations placed on you because you're a woman in that position? Do you feel that you have something to prove, or that people think that you should be proving something more than perhaps you have to? Let's start with Sarah.
I think that is the challenge that we face on a daily basis at any level. When you get into the boardroom, you will get challenged. And if you don't speak up, we usually tend to be in a boardroom sitting with many men across. You have more than 15 people, and there's only a few women. The woman tends to be quiet the whole time and not speak up. I was taught a lesson by one of my mentors when I started, and I got my first boardroom appointment, and she just said, just raise your hand and ask a question, even if it's a silly question, so that they just hear your voice and they know that you are here. They will start getting used to being here and actually listen to your question, and then you can have an open door to debate. So I used that and actually worked quite well. So just speak up. When you sit in that boardroom, just speak up. My first board meeting actually came up a bit earlier because I just wanted to get a good seat and feel comfortable with the space. And when the chairman got in, he just asked me for coffee. And I just looked at him and I said, well, help yourself, the coffee is here. Okay, and he just told me, no, so make it 2. So he was really on, yes, they will push you to that limit. I did go and I made the coffee for 2, and I sat next to him and I said, now let's discuss. We are here for a purpose. We will do it.
Right.
So don't feel intimidated. They will try to intimidate you.
Right. It's just to keep that strength up.
And most of the time they'll intimidate you so you can eliminate you, you know? So you have to be smart of how you do it. People do it differently, but you have to really be smart, because the reason why they're shutting you down is so that you can get out of that boardroom. So in the first place, when you got there by yourself, so why should people take you out of the boardroom? So back to your question, I do find that maybe not so much here in Rwanda, but I tend to explain myself more. Like they see me coming, oh, so you're the co-founder of this company? Really? There's no one else. Like, I'm like, yes. And we are 2 women now. Like, really, this company is just for 2 women? Like, so why do I have to explain myself? So definitely that pressure is always there.
So you think that you can be challenged because of this? Like, because men perhaps want to keep things the way they were before, the way they are now?
No, sometimes I think I find myself having to explain myself, because maybe they're like really surprised, like, oh, really? This is a company founded by a woman, so they're not used to that. But in some other instances, some men will do it purposely so that they can really eliminate you.
Right. We're going to take a very short break, and then just after that, we'll be right back. You are watching a panel where we're discussing women leading women, and we're taking stock of how it is to be a woman leader in this society. We'll be right back. Welcome back. My name is Makeda Mahario, and today we are discussing women leading women. How is it to be a woman leader in this society today? I am discussing that with Sarah Doukoure, who is the CEO of Engen Rwanda, and we also have Denise Umunyana, who is the co-founder of Right Seat, which provides HR solutions. So before we took our break, we were just talking about sometimes the fact that, you know, women can be in the minority in the boardroom or in high-level meetings, and the experience there being pushed sometimes or being challenged, and some expectations of you know, being the minority. Globally, there has been a lot of acknowledgement now of sexual harassment in the workplace. There is the Me Too movement, and, you know, even here in Rwanda, there have been campaigns saying, you know, you don't have to fulfill any sexual expectations in order to get certain positions, meaning that it exists here too. How do you handle that in your work environments that you have created for your offices? Let's start with Sarah.
I think in our environment, this is still a challenge. This is very much a challenge because of being mostly male-dominated. So women tends to be a bit, I would say, scared to lose their jobs, and also wanting to. I mean, of course, you want to rise up and you want to get promotions, but surprisingly, I think women tend to manage it quite well. It's not so much in the open, so I've never had reports where a woman has complained of sexual harassment or the likes. I think it's maybe cultural as well, that they don't really want to speak about it, but it does exist, and they usually tend to discuss it between themselves and resolve it.
Right, right.
I do find that.
I tend to share the same view, really. It is there, you know, it is there, and sometimes we don't know, again, because women either say, if I speak up, he's my boss, I'll lose my job. So they'll find a way of dealing with it if they have not been abused. So it is a challenge and very difficult to handle. I don't think there is a solution, but for example, for us when we're recruiting, especially entry-level jobs, when we interview young women, we tell them that, you know, yes, this is a job, you want a job, but your life matters, your life first. You'd rather be at home, sitting at home safe, than being in a job where you're being sexually abused. So we can only mention this as much as possible and hopefully support as much as we can, but definitely it's still a challenge because women tend to be quiet. They don't mention, they don't talk about it.
What action do you think can be taken in order to sort of make sure that this is watched? I mean, to make sure that we are maintaining a peaceful workplace for all employees, because as both of you have said, women tend to not speak up about it. And as much as I think the information is there that, you would rather not, you'd rather be at home than have, a lot of times women have families, they have bills, they have different responsibilities, and now we have women leaders, but a lot of time, men are still in a position to even intimidate women into thinking that they can't speak up. So what is being done now, Sarah, maybe at Engen, to make sure that the environment is maintained and supervised in that way?
I think it's also a responsibility as leaders to really avoid those situations or look up for those situations, and when they happen, to step up and to really try to control it and manage it. Unfortunately, we do find that women tend to shy away and not really want to speak about it. So the way I do it is usually to have forums as well with the women. We discuss openly. Maybe because I'm a woman, it's easier for them to speak up. Then I tend to open the conversation and maybe share experience. I didn't really feel that myself. During my career, I've been very privileged maybe to not feel that, but it does happen. And when we get into those discussions, it's actually quite helpful as well for the woman to be able to speak up, and then we find ways to resolve it amicably without it becoming a very big issue. I do know that some of the women have left because of that, and they tend to leave rather than speak up, which I found a disappointment, because I mean they have the skills, they could have been very successful, and because of that they kind of give up.
And it's sort of perpetuating a trend that's already there, right? Do you have any techniques?
In the companies where I worked previously, we actually had policies in place. We had policies in place and guidelines, and then we would always have regular conversations. But also something one of the employers was doing is telling women to look up for women, because someone who's being abused might actually even be disturbed mentally, Not that they don't want to say it, but they're like, I can't. So we usually encourage other women to also look out for. So we had a group of women, we used to call them divas. So one of the mandates for the divas was really to look out for the other women, who are probably going through something that they will not bring up. So that worked, and especially young women would really confide themselves in the older women, and the older women would bring this because the older women understand that they've been there, so they would bring this to management, and it was easy to handle. And we also had one of the employers had an office called ombudsman. So whenever you would face a challenge, you would send an anonymous complaint, and your case would be dealt. So I've been in a situation where we had to actually deal with a disciplinary case over sexual harassment, and it was done, correctly, and the guy was fired.
I like the idea of the divas, so that's a good idea. I just want to talk about stats a little bit, as someone who is in a hiring position and someone who provides HR solutions. Have you found that in recent times you have hired more women than in the past? Not necessarily compared to men, but just in general. Have you given more promotions to women, or do you find that you haven't had that opportunity yet?
As I said, it's quite a challenge still in our industry, because unfortunately we do tend to not have so many women that actually even apply for our positions. They tend to feel that it's not their domain, or they are not qualified for it, so they don't apply. Even you will find that even in finance jobs, I mean, we are recently recruiting for a finance position, and over the 5 CVs we wanted to interview, we only got 2 women, which was a disappointment for me because I thought, no, there are some fields that we can actually get more women than men. But yet, we didn't get that much. And even the woman that came in for the interview, the first one was actually not very clear what was the expectation. And then when we started explaining to her, no, it's a finance job, you know, but you're going to have reporting time, you're going to have to work overtime. Then she just said, no, it's not for me. That felt as a disappointment for me because I really thought that, you know, at least I have a woman, let me grab her and get her on the job. But yeah, it's a challenge. We do tend to have women as well that are quite ambitious, which is the positive about it. And when it's like that, yes, we do, I mean, my HR manager and myself, we do tend to not give priority, but we do tend to be deliberate about it and say, okay, let's give her the chance rather than, because it's a position that she can handle better than a man even, and those are positions like customer service and HR or even finance. Those fields they are quite comfortable doing, and well, we need to give them that opportunity. The doors needs to be open for them as well.
Right. You know, I've seen that there's some jobs that have been stereotyped. So for example, even when you're looking for a woman, you won't even get a CV. For example, like there are some jobs we recruit for, like sales, you know, where you have to be on the field. Women don't like these jobs. Only men come. So for me, I feel like really I've been recruiting both men and women, and then of course as the ladder goes up, less women, but also I feel like there's some jobs that have been stereotyped that even when you're deliberate, really you're looking for women to recruit, they don't bring their CVs because they're like, oh, no, this is not for me. I can't keep running every day on the streets. I want to just be sitting in office and all. So again, I think it's a two-way thing.
Right. You know, you were saying earlier that you kind of had a head start when you were starting your career. You had it. You were educated. You were in an environment that was friendly for that. What do you think is the way forward for getting more women into not even only into the workplace, but into the mentality that they can become the boss? Do you think that it's starting from a high school level? Do you think that it's working with women who are already in the workplace? Do you think that it's quotas? Where are you with that, Sarah?
For me, it started at a very early age. I'm telling you, I'm already doing it with my daughter. She's 7. And already I'm pushing that little seed in her that she can become what she wants to become. So there is no age that you should be now, okay, now she's grown up, she can understand and I can try to. It starts from a very early age. You know, I have a boy and a girl, and when I see them playing, the difference is so obvious that sometimes I feel even disappointed with my girl, and I just think, no, you really need to push as well. I mean, don't let him beat you up. You need to stand up. So now she fights. Now she starts understanding that she has to really. But one day she told me actually quite bluntly that no, mommy, I don't want to be like you. Yeah, she did say, no, I think that I should be home and looking after my husband and my kids. And this is what they learn in school.
Right.
Because in school you get different kind of kids from different kind of backgrounds, and parents tend to teach the girls that they should be good mothers and good wives, and that they shouldn't expect to get too much higher in the workplace, which is something that really needs to be pushed, and we really have a lot of work to do. And it starts from a very early age, at school, with the teachers. I don't go to that point where I'm advocating in class with my daughter, but I mean, at home, I'm really starting from a very early age. And same for the boys. The boys also, they need to get that same. They need to get encouraged, they need to feel confident, and that's how they rise up. So it should be the same for the girls. And it starts from a very early age.
Right. I actually think that a person is born. Sometimes it starts at home. When kids are born, I think it should start with parents. How do you bring up your children? Sarah just mentioned it to cut it short. So I think the government of Rwanda is doing well. So it's really starting from the grassroots, encouraging the majority, again, because we said, remember, we're just a minority, representing like 1%. Not only women, even the men, we're like 1% representing 1%. So it starts at home. All these policies that have been put in place are encouraging women to, to be, to think higher. So there's no, when do you start? It should start at home. At home, my daughter is she's a fighter. So actually, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, this my daughter will be fighting. But then deep down, I'm like, she will fight for herself. So it's good. But like my son sometimes would say, oh, mommy, women like to do this. So now I'm actually taking time with my son because I know my daughter will fight for herself. I'm like, you cannot even start saying women do this and men do this. No. Because if you don't correct that at an early age, this is when they start saying, oh, no, we're superior. Right. So it starts very early at home.
You're saying that even though you are quite successful, your daughter still says on her own, I want to be able to be a homemaker, which is also respectful, and we can't take away from that. But it is true that in schools and even on TV, all over media, there is this idea of, you're either a mommy and a good wife, or you are a powerful career woman who is hard and lonely, or whatever the case may be, all of these stereotypes that are perpetuated. What part of, there not being, because we do know that the number is slowly growing, but do you think that the perception is part of the reason why more women aren't pushing towards being in those leadership positions? The perception of maybe, I can't do both. I can't have a family and I don't want people to think I'm hard, or etc.
I think it starts with the women themselves. They put those barriers themselves, that if I am wanting a career, I first need to focus on that career. Then they get to the late 30s and 40s. That's where the biological clock kicks in, and now they want babies. But I think you should be able to balance. You really need to think from an early age already how you really want your career path to grow, and then based on that you plan. It's all about planning. There's no secret, I was talking to you about work-life balance, which I don't believe in. There is no such work-life balance. It's all about planning. You need to know what you want, and you need to plan for it. And my life is like that. It's like a clockwork. It's tick, tick, tick. Because otherwise, you will end up at a very late age and realize that you have not achieved what you wanted as a woman.
But I suppose it does take a certain amount of courage to decide, especially when, since you're a child, you've been seeing all of these images on TV around you with friends, etc., that tell you that you have to choose. Now we're having more conversations about it, and we're seeing more successful women who are doing the way that they like. But do you feel that somehow not that you have the responsibility, but to make sure that we're not, our children, I guess, aren't confused by this, and even teenagers and women in the workplace right now aren't confused by this perception or this image that a woman has to fit into this box. Do you feel that that's something that you feel that you need to push through?
No, definitely. So yesterday there was a show on the Square, and the title was "Can a Woman Have It All?"
Right.
Then in my head I'm like, but why do they even have to say "Can a woman"? Can anyone have it all? Right. So it's not about a woman and it's anyone as a human being. Can we have it all? Definitely not. Yeah? Until we get to heaven, hopefully we'll have it all. But I really think that sometimes these biases, again, because the perception that, oh, women have been underprivileged, oh, women this and that, then we even tend to have so many conversations that are saying the same things. Can we even think as a human being, can anyone have it all? And Sarah mentioned it. So if you can't have it all, Denise, what do you want? Do you want to be a career woman, or just a mother, or, and if I choose to be both, then what do I do to balance everything? So definitely I will not have it all, but I'm going to try my best to achieve everything that it is that I want. But it starts with me. It's me, what Denise, as Denise, not even Denise as a woman or as a daughter or as a mother. It's Denise as a human being. What do I want, and how can I get there? Really, yeah.
I mean, I think, you know, you both make it look very easy, being women in leadership positions. But if we're to be honest, it is very, very hard. It's hard for men too. But I think that there is expectation from not only the family, but every part of society for a woman to, you have to be there for your children. You have to be there. Whereas a man can be a businessman, a successful businessman who maybe neglects a bit his family, but you know, he's doing it for the good of the family, etc. Whereas as a woman, you have to be it all for everyone. What kind of sacrifices have you had to make in order to sort of be everything for everybody? I mean, it's not an easy job.
No, you can't have it all, definitely, as she said, and you also, it is not easy. You need to make it the way you want to be. And I think it's all about the support that you have. It's very, very important that you have the right support, that you have an husband that understands what is it that you want inside of you and that is pushing you to actually achieve. Without the support of my husband, I wouldn't be where I am today, and I wouldn't even have kids, because when it was the time to have the kids, it was also the time for me to start a career. So I really was challenged in both ways, and my husband said, no, you know, if it's not now, it's never gonna be, because I can see you're gonna turn back at 40s and say, oh, it's too late, sorry. So I think the support is critical. And please, if you can see so many of those women not achieving, it's because the husband has been pulling them back. The husband has not been wanting them to work for whatever reason, and those reasons are perfectly understandable. And you really need to have a time for everything. There will be a time for the kids, there will be a time for your career, and there should always be a time for your husband as well. And it's always how you balance everything that is critical.
So yes, definitely, it is not easy, but I don't like to say that I'm sacrificing something so that I can have this. You know, when you want something and you decide, I want to do both, I want to be a businesswoman, a mother, everything, the moment you accept the situation that you're in and you're able to plan accordingly and find the support, I don't like to call those sacrifices, because really, it's like when someone tells you you're sacrificing, it's like I'm not having a life. Right now, I'm really enjoying my life to the fullest. And I'm not saying I'm having it easy, but I'm not sacrificing anything. I feel like I'm doing whatever I have to do. In having in mind that I won't have it all, remember, but it's okay. I don't have to have it all. If I have something that I'm happy about, that works for me, I'm happy. Definitely you need support. When you're married, a wife, you need a husband that, you know, that is supportive. But some women, we have some single mothers out here. It is important that you find the right support. If you're a single mother or now we're talking about women, but you could also be a single father, you need to find the right support for you. Maybe you will find a mentor or even a nanny that you're going to pay a little bit of extra money, who can maybe help your children with homework when you're in those board meetings. Or maybe you have a sister or a mother or someone who you can have with. Definitely, it is not easy to do it alone. That's for sure. So you need to find the right support, whatever situation you're in, whether you're married, single mother, you know, you need to have the right support. So it's not something you can do alone, for sure.
Right. Mm. Yeah. And just bouncing back as well on the sacrifices, what you were really talking about. I think us women tend to feel guilty, to always think that, no, you know, I'm gonna miss this very big event at school, or I'm gonna miss this birthday because I'm gonna travel. And we women tend to be very, very hard on ourselves. Yeah. I think we need to start really looking back and saying, well, you know, our mothers did it, we are doing it. There is no guilt. There is not because you have missed one birthday that the child is even going to remember that and that they are not going to forgive you for it. Yes, you may feel that you should have been there, but please forgive yourself. Yes. There will be time that you will not make it, but you will compensate with something else. And the life is always about that. It's about balancing the two and being able to be there for your children. I'm very much there for my children, but I'm also very much involved. I'm a working mom, And yes, there will be time that I will get home late, and my kids will be maybe waiting for me for homework because I don't have anyone that is doing the homework with them. I have to come back home quite early. When I'm missing it, it's early in the morning, but we plan for it. And because we've been in that system, maybe my kids now understand it, so they're also very supportive. So it's really the support of your husband, your partner, but also of your children when they have at a certain age.
Right. You know, before we wrap up, there are a few different things, because now I sort of want to focus on creating more women leaders, right? So, you know, some of the things that you have mentioned throughout our discussion today, support being a main thing, conditioning of young children, but even women who are in the workplace right now, courage, you know, we have to be courageous, not underestimate ourselves, so be also confident with what we're doing, also creating the goals, sticking to that, having patience with people who may not, you know, want you to be in the boardroom or expect you to be in the boardroom, or who just want to test you. Also balance with the different things that we have in our lives, because even if it's not children or a family, you know, everyone has a balance that they have to create within the different aspects of their life. What other, I don't know, key ingredients do you think that it would take for us to have perhaps the next generation be as dynamic in having women leaders as the public sector is right now in Rwanda?
I think we have to be deliberate about it. As women leaders, we have to drive it. We need to be deliberate in hiring people, hiring women. We need to be deliberate in when you actually even organize in different forums, you need to bring in more women so that you give them the exposure, so that they also get higher position and promotion. So I think it all starts with us as women leader being deliberate about giving other women a chance, giving them that rope so that they can climb on. And also for younger women, they really need to be confident. It does require a lot of hard work. You always need to prove yourselves. But if you push, you put the right effort into it, and you are confident about what you want, then you can achieve. I don't think there's any secret. It does require hard work and confidence.
You know, I think one thing we need to accept is that as women, we cannot do it alone. So really, I think for me, what we need to do is mobilize as many men as possible to drive this movement. Because if we're driving it alone, definitely will be, sometimes we also tend to be self-forgiving or self-it. But if we have someone with a different perspective supporting you, so they will also encourage the other men. Right. So for me, I really think the secret to this is to mobilize as many men as possible to drive this movement of supporting women and encouraging women to get to the higher levels.
Right. Hopefully, you know, the universe is listening, men are listening, the women out there who have ambitions of being women leaders, and even the ones who don't have those ambitions are rethinking the way that they see things, because, you know, it is quite inspirational. Thank you so much for joining me on the panel today. We discussed women leading women, being women in leadership positions, and we've kind of gotten through a lot of things today. You have been watching this with myself, Makeda Mahario, Sarah Doukoure, who is the CEO of Engen Rwanda, and of course Denise Umunyana, I want to say that properly, who is the co-founder of Right Seat. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you the next time.